Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Motivational speaker, coach, God lover, and goal crusher Joe Rivera brings you inspiring leaders, incredible stories, and valuable lessons on how you can change, grow, and reforge your life. Now, here's your host, Joe Rivera.
What's up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Reforge Your Life show, where we make comebacks become a reality. I'm your host, Joe Rivera. And today, man, we got a special guest, man, a friend, father, business owner, entrepreneur, and, man, a motivational speaker. And I'm so grateful to have you in the room, brother. And every time we get to connect, it's always a blessing, bro.
It definitely is, brother. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here in your studio setting this time. So let's get going, brother. You know, we always bring the heat.
Let's get it, brother. So listen, man, I mean, I know your story. And I know it's incredible, but the audience doesn't know it, and I can't say it as good as you could. So sure. I want you to share your story and tell everybody what's about, man.
Sure. So my name's Sean Martin, originally from the Bronx, New York, Parkside Project, stand up. Born and raised, 1990s crack epidemic was a wildfire going through every major city in the United States. That was the backdrop for where I grew up. I was raised by my single mom, whose family immigrated here from the Dominican Republic when she was 11. God has a plan. Fortunately for us in our lineage, my mom was a bit of a nerd, went to college, somehow graduated on time here in the States, despite it not being her first language, and had me at a young age, somewhat young age, and instilled the values in me as a child that will later serve me throughout my life. So I explain those two things because they were such a powerful pull. Mm-hmm. You have the gravity of the streets and all the things going on and everybody getting locked up and fatherless homes. And you have me, I'm in a fatherless home, but it kind of worked out. Mm-hmm. And, I say that to say that no matter where you start, you can always end up as high as you put your work into and your good fortune and, faith will bring you. Because throughout my life, I've faced numerous challenges. Probably the greatest of which was at the age of 29, despite having a college degree, despite already making six figures, I found myself going to jail for 2 years because at that point in my life, I was making bad choices. I was hanging out with the wrong people. I wasn't doing anything that was moving my life in the right direction. And God gave me a pow-pow or a timeout, however you want to say it. Fortunate enough to, again, rely back to those teachings as a kid from mom. And I framed it early on, which was, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened for me. And despite going to prison, despite losing whatever little I had at the time, I gained so much more. I met my now wife. We're celebrating 16 years together, 11 years married, 2 beautiful kids. She came into my life a year before going in. We celebrated our first year anniversary 2 days after I turned myself in to go to prison. Go figure. And then my journey in prison brings me to a place of just letting go. Like, I had no worries. I had no drugs and alcohol in my system for the first time in my young adult and adult life. And unbeknownst to me, that gave me the clarity and the courage to pick up self-development books, Tony Robbins, Dale Carnegie, you name it, all the classics. And I was fortunate enough to take all of those things that I was learning and just have no distractions. So my mind was open. I was in good physical shape. I was receiving what the world had to offer at that time. And I actually manifested in black and white composition notebooks what would turn out to be the next 10 and 15 years of my life upon coming home. So for some reason, God planted these dreams in me early, and I was clouded with doubt and fear and not seeing those good examples coming from where I came from. But then being in prison, the last place you think you find hope, I found clarity that I was always missing. I found peace that I was always missing. And those dreams came through these hands in the form of a composition notebook and just, bro, when I tell you I look back to this day at some of the things that I've accomplished, it just blows my mind. And, the list, we could be here for 45 minutes talking about the things I wrote and the things that came true. But, I say that to say no matter what anybody who's listening to this podcast may be going through or have been through, You are the designer and the author and the director and the editor and the producer and the boom mic guy. You create your life. But unfortunately, a lot of times we just don't have the tools and we don't have the people around us to show us the way. So I've dedicated this next chapter of my life to service, to serving others where I came from, particularly black and brown inner city youth, from here in New York City and, now Long Island, but also the country eventually. So we're just starting out that journey, but I believe with absolute certainty that this was my calling. And it was implanted in me in that prison cell as well. But I needed to find success and get the chip off my shoulder before I went on this mission. So, the last 15 years since coming home was about building the business. It was about making that money that we always, wanted when we were young, having those things, those toys, those clothes, those cars that we always dreamt of. And upon getting a lot of that, I realized none of it was making me happy. So I turned the lens inward and started to do some deep dive into who Sean is as a person, because I know all the things I wasn't at this point in my life. And getting sober was probably the biggest shift in the last 2.5, 3 years that I did for myself and for my family and for my future. And that was a big connection for us too, was because we shared that journey
Of
together.
course. Man, there's a lot to unpack there. So we're going to get into that journey, but I'm curious. You mentioned when you were younger, the values that you came up with. You mentioned also growing up in a fatherless home. And I know what that's like. My mom played mom and dad, and she did a phenomenal job with it, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of people who end up in that circumstance who allow that to dictate their future. They become victims of their circumstances and conditions, right? And we're not victims of our circumstances and conditions. We create our own destiny. Right. So what was it that you hung on to make it where, oh shit, you know what? I'm not a victim of my circumstance and condition. This isn't going to dictate my future. Just because I don't have a father doesn't mean I can't become the best version of a man that I could become.
Right. People use the word luck. I'm not going to say luck. I'm going to say grace, because God and the world has shown me a lot of hardship, but it's also shown me a lot of grace, because I could have been addicted to drugs to a point where it was not something I could overcome. I could have resented my mom or, any of the people in my life, or I went down a different road, or I could have resented the fact that I went to prison or used that as an excuse. And the truth is that when I said to myself, my fault, those two words are the most powerful words that any human being can say to themselves to empower themselves. My fault. I don't give a shit what happens to you. If you can somehow have the courage to look in the mirror and say, you know what, these terrible things are happening, these things beyond my control are happening to me, and still have the courage to say, all right, but this is my fault if I hold on to this feeling. If I hold on to that feeling of helplessness, if I hold on to that excuse or that feeling or that thought that someone else is to blame, versus saying, you know what, my fault. Now, yeah, it's not my fault, but what you're doing is giving yourself permission to find a solution, or to give yourself permission to move forward, as opposed to holding on to the past. And I think people use their past as excuses to stay in the zone that they are familiar and comfortable with. So you can be comfortable in depression. You can be comfortable in poverty. And what I mean by that is that's what you know.
Yeah.
And there's a certain comfort in familiarity. Absolutely. No matter how fucked up it is, there's comfort in seeing the same thing over and over again. And being put in prison was my shakeup. That's what it took for me to say, yo, all this shit that this is not the way.
Right.
And not to say that I came home and everything was great, but I've always allowed myself, I've always been hard on myself, I should say. And taking an inventory of how I played a role in anything that happens in my life has been the key. I think we're in a pivotal moment in time where people want to blame everything and everyone for the circumstances that are happening around them. And what are you doing? You're empowering things you can't control. And that is the kiss of death. So I am very fortunate to have avoided that. And I can't honestly tell you how, other than God's grace and a few good lessons and some good information that I was given early in life, brother. And furthermore, it has given me the courage to now go off on this mission and make it about others as opposed to myself. And again, I'm only going to be doing this because I got the chip off my shoulder and I've got the financial stability that I needed. But it's a matter of having that conversation with yourself and telling yourself, you can do this. It's my fault. How do we move forward? What did we learn from this? So just staying positive, as cheesy as that sounds.
No, listen, it's not cheesy, you know, and positivity is power, right? But you spoke about, you know, where there was a moment where you said, I'm going to take full responsibility for my actions. And I just want the audience to realize how powerful that is, right? Because it's so important to take responsibility for your actions. It's so important to not point the finger at everybody else and play the blame game and start looking in yourself in the mirror. And you mentioned you had to look at yourself in the mirror and say, damn, my bad. I fucked up. I apologize for what I did to you in the past, but not dwelling on the past and realizing that your past could catapult you into your future, which is what you did, right? So at what point did you say, you know what? I got to start taking responsibility for my actions. I got to peel the onion back and take stock of who I am and change this person on the inward in order to change it on the outward.
I think I've always been somebody that is in tune with their emotional side because I was raised by a very large-hearted, you know, mom who poured into me. And, you know, I didn't have the other side, maybe the harder side or the rougher side of, you know, being raised by a father. And I know that's a big stereotype I just threw out there, but bear with me. It's just to give you a position of, you know, energies. There's feminine energies, there's masculine energies. And, you know, I was raised around a lot of feminine energy, but mom was also tough. And she did the best that she knew how with what she had, just like your mom. But there's nothing that can duplicate the role of a father and a son. There's just nothing like it. Now that I'm a father to a son, I know it, I feel it, and all those intuitions I had have been validated. So what I do is I just like to, again, circle back and give myself the permission to not be too hard on myself. Because as you know, in recovery, the worst thing you could do is be hard on yourself, because then you're beating yourself up and then you're going down that path and then you're going to pick up or you're going to use or you're going to do whatever it is that drove you there in the first place. So the pivotal moment for me was in that cell. I'm forced to do these anger management programs. And I say forced jokingly because when you go to prison, the idea is to reform you, to make you realize the things that you did wrong. But it falls on deaf ears. A lot of the brothers and sisters that go to prison here are not receptive to the information that's being provided behind those walls. There are classes, there's anger management, there's violence training, there's all kinds of things that they're giving you to take a look at that onion and see the layers. So I didn't know how my emotions work. I actually learned the emotional intelligence that I have now in prison because I'm like, I'm fucking here. I might as well make the best of it. So I'm working out, I'm reading, not eating the best because the options aren't that great, but I'm doing what I can with what's there. But I'm also receiving this information that the counselors and the prison system put together for me. And, you know, anger is usually what leads somebody to commit a crime or do violence or anything senseless that leads them to prison. And there's a joke, but that's not a joke. And this is if everybody in prison had 30 seconds to take back, they wouldn't be in prison because it happens that fast. And the decision is usually one driven by anger. But how do we get to this point of being so angry that we're really willing to do harm or commit crime or do anything that can harm another human being? And the reason is we don't understand our emotions. There's resentment. There's an expectation that's not met, and it leads to resentment, and the resentment leads to, holding on and fostering these feelings, and that leads to anger and frustration. There's all kinds of things going on, but when you're not trained, we go straight to anger. And that's something we see a lot growing up in poverty or growing up in the hood. People express themselves that way. Even when brothers talk about basketball game, it looks like an argument. Whoever talks the loudest wins.
Yeah.
In prison, all they respect is violence. And it's because there's no understanding of that emotional complexity that goes on in each and every one of us. And I was fortunate enough to have learned it in prison, believe it or not. And I think that was the turning point for the guy that you see here. So it really, really, we have chapters in our lives, and that was a page turn. That really started, my way toward writing other chapters for this life. But emotional intelligence was learned in prison, and that was pivotal for me. That's how I learned to control this a little better. And it's an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing education. But I'm open to it, and I'm up for the challenge. And life never gets easier. It just, you become able to manage it better. And as the decisions get harder, the more you make them, the easier they get. So, a problem that was a $10 problem in your 20s or a $20 problem, you can make a $10,000 or $20,000 decision now with less doubt, less fear, because you've exercised that muscle so many times. And the same thing goes for emotional intelligence. It's not just believing that you're right. It's analyzing the situation, looking at what you could have done better, what went wrong, whatever would have you. I don't want to get into the whole psychology of it, but essentially it's admitting that you don't know what you don't know. And I was willing to admit that to myself in my darkest place, and all I did was learn.
Yeah.
And it made me a better person. Thank God.
Yeah, thank God it was right? I mean, it could have gone such a different way.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned, you worked on emotional intelligence. You realized that, putting the drugs down. I remember when I had to put the drugs down, I remembered that putting the drugs down was the easy part, right? Flipping my mindset, having that paradigm shift and peeling the onion back and taking stock of who I was. That's where the real work is. And you mentioned the power of the thoughts, right? Because our thoughts become things. Our thoughts become our feelings and emotions. Those emotions and feelings become our reactions. That becomes our result, right? So that's how powerful the mind is. But you also mentioned a couple of times here, the grace of God, your faith, leaning into that. How did that come about, and how important was that in that shift that you had?
It was priceless. And when you're extremely uncomfortable or when you're going through pain, once you've gone through shit enough in your life, you realize that there's something great on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And for me, most recently, so I've always been spiritual for the most part. There were times in my young 20s and coming out of school where I was a complete atheist, everything science, whatever. I don't want to hear about any hocus pocus, as I jokingly call it. Again, ignorance, trying to make sense of the world. Like so many people, you want to see it, feel it, touch it. And I can't see, feel, and touch God, which you can. And I know that now because I'm humble and I've succumbed and given myself over to that. But most recently, I want to share the experience that I had and what brought me the closest I've ever been to God, and that was getting sober. And after coming out of a rehab, which I checked myself into, because again, I think I've shared the story, but fuck it, let's do it. I'm a little embarrassed sometimes to share it, but my wife told me my breath smelled like alcohol one morning. My son had been born a few months earlier, and I wasn't feeling being married. I wasn't feeling being a dad. I wasn't feeling living in the suburbs. I'm this kid from the hood. Like, what the fuck do I know about all this? So again, and I'm building a business and I'm successful, but I'm empty. And the bottle was my comfort. This is how I don't have to deal with the voices. This is how I don't have to deal with the feelings. So I found myself drinking at home, a half a bottle, a half a fifth, by myself, and I'm downstairs watching Netflix. My daughter and my wife are upstairs doing their own thing, and I'm like home, but I'm not there. And my son is born, and my wife makes this comment, and it just clicked for me, bro. I knew at that moment I needed to get sober. So I checked myself into rehab about a month later because I'm running a business. I had to strategize how I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to check in on a Thursday. I'm going to be back by Tuesday. Lo and behold, I'm out in 3 days because I'm a unicorn, and I just wanted the ability to sleep because I used to get butterflies. So never had the shakes or anything like that. But I'm an alcoholic at this point. There's no doubt about it. I'm just a highly functional alcoholic. Like so many people listening probably can, if they're being honest with themselves, admit we have a lot of functional alcoholics that we know, that we engage with, that we work with, and it doesn't make them any less than. It's just something that I knew in my gut and my heart needed to go. And my wife's comment, that little fucking comment shifted my world. I get out of rehab, got a whole new look and feel about the future. I start to support myself through, aftercare programs. And I go to group, I meet with the group, and then I meet with a solo, and then I've got virtual that I'm paying for out of pocket because the insurance doesn't cover. And I'm also going to AA meetings. I land in the AA meeting, local, around my house, and it turns out these are the hardcore Alcoholics Anonymous people, unbeknownst to me, right? You got levels. It's just like religion. You got, Christian light. You go to some of the churches and, it's kumbaya. And then you got like thumpers, Bible thumpers. Right. So this was the big book thumpers, as I would later learn. But that's exactly where I needed to be because I needed to hear this. And the framework for the program at AA and NA, fucking amazing. It's changed so many lives. I can only hope to change a fraction of those lives in my life, as I've said, and I will continue to say. I've got nothing bad to say about AA, but it doesn't work for everybody. And it wasn't working for me in that I couldn't turn myself over to the feeling of I am powerless. That's just something that as Sean Martin lives, breathes, and is sitting here, I will never admit to being powerless over anything. I do not knock anybody that needs to do that to stay sober because it gives them a brand new life. It unlocks a life they could never have imagined. So if it works for you, do it. But I found the sponsor there a few months in. Hesitantly, I asked the gentleman to be my sponsor. Remember, the Big Book Thumpers, hardcore. I'm an independent, bro. You can't beat me in the head. That's going to just make me go, fuck off. I know what I'm doing. And this guy was exactly what I needed. He was, AA's the only way you're ever going to stay sober. And I disagreed, politely. This man came into my life. He taught me about prayer. And he asked me to get on my knees when I prayed. Because I'd always prayed. I always look up and thankful. Thank you, God. I'm grateful. And I was in tune with the spiritual connection. But when I got over myself, and I got on my knees and began to pray, that's when we got close. Something happened. And, I'll tell you a funny story. Probably a month and a half into him being my sponsor, I dumped him because he was too hardcore for me. And I was at a Tony Robbins seminar, and he's like, you got to catch a meeting. And I'm like, bro, fucking go catch a meeting with a bunch of alcoholics in South Florida. I'm all right. I got Tony Robbins in front of me. And he didn't get it, and he didn't want to get it. He was too rigid. He was in the box. And listen, it works for him. God bless him. I got nothing bad to say. But he couldn't see that same hope for me because there's no way it's going to work, kid. And here I am, 2.5 years plus sober with absolutely no desire to have a drink. Thank God. Doesn't happen like that for everybody, but that's my story, and that's how I got connected as closely as I am now to God.
All glory be to God, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, listen, and I just want to go back and say that you ain't ashamed to tell your story because you just did.
Yeah, fuck it.
You just did it in front of the world. You know what I mean? And let me tell you.
Because it's going to help somebody.
God didn't give you that story to keep it inside anyway.
He didn't give me the gift of gab to keep it to myself either.
That's right. You know what I mean? So you're carrying out the assignment by passing it off. Who knows? Somebody's life might get changed just from hearing that little part of the segment.
I can only hope.
You know what I mean?
I can only hope.
So I want to kind of backtrack to the transformation because this is about comeback and transformation. And when you get out of jail and or rehab, whichever part, like at some point to make the change, you had to crack through certain limited beliefs that you came up with in life, right? I mean, they come from childhood, they come from teachers, they come from parents, from so many different areas of our lives. What are some limited beliefs that you had to crack through in order to make the change?
To be clear, I still have limiting beliefs. We all do, because we are unlimited potential unrealized. Every single human being has unlimited potential that is unrealized because of the story that's been implanted in them, both by their upbringing and now by themselves. Because we're told the story, and if the story works, and again, you could be comfortable in disparity. And we look to make sense of it all by keeping the story nice and well-rounded and polished and not too many variables that we don't have control over. So the transformation and the limiting beliefs are only lifted when you step way outside of your comfort zone. You put yourself around people that you feel dumb around, people that you are broke around. If you're the dumbest, brokest guy in the room or gal in the room, you are in the right place.
That's right.
Especially if you put yourself there. Now, if you just happen to wander into a fucking mechanical engineering conference by mistake, you probably want to exit. But if you sort out a room, a mastermind, a real estate conference, a fitness conference, a biohacking, event, whatever it is, because you wanted to level up some area of your life, you're in the right place. When you're confused, when you're doubtful, when you don't know what's going on or the feelings you're having or why you feel this way, that's good. You're not comfortable anymore. Yeah. You're learning. You're uncomfortable. You're expanding. I'm going through it now. Bro, I just came from recording a TV interview. I told you earlier in the week, I had a virtual interview with a Seattle news station on mentorship. And then Tuesday, I'm at John Adams High in Queens talking to kids. Like, this is the busiest week I've had because the doubt and the fear, despite all the things I've been doing, there's a lot of wheel spinning going on. All the money, all the social media, the stuff that I've been doing is me betting on myself.
Right.
And some people have the ability to do it big. Some people do it incrementally. Some people don't do it at all. Most people don't have the courage to do it at all. My brother, I'm coming home from the interview this morning. I'm driving back, and my boy calls me. My boy from the Bronx who lives in Florida, and he's telling me about a new venture, a side hustle for, loans. He's a banker. He's been doing this forever, and he got the courage recently to do it, and he called me. You know how flattered I was, bro? That I'm the guy, people that come from where I come from, my crew, my drinking crew, they want to level up because I think all of us inside have that desire to transform because we know we're meant for more. The reason you feel empty and the reason we feel have this fucking mental health crisis is because people aren't trying. Let's be honest. There's no fucking pill or psychologist that's going to solve your problems more than going out there, taking a chance, failing and getting up and doing it again. That's the fucking prescription.
That's right.
But people are scared, bro. And the culture fucking embraces that fear.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know. I mean, it serves to have subservient people more than independent thinkers, I guess. But, again, nobody's going to control my life except for me.
That's right. I mean, if you're scared, go get a dog. Come on, man. Stop embarrassing yourself, right? But so I mean, you talk about, there's a couple jewels there that I want the audience to pick up on, right? You spoke about surrounding yourself with people who inspire you. Because if you surround yourself with people who inspire you, guess what? You're going to be inspired to do more with your life. And you want to surround yourself with people who are going to help you grow and rise to the occasion, not with people who are going to bring you down. That's so vital, right? In being able to crack through limited beliefs and being able to grow, right? I mean, it's business 101. Right?
Sobriety's a limiting belief.
Absolutely.
I didn't know what it was going to look like to be sober, so I avoided the shit for 20 years. I'm the life of the party. Bro, I'm the guy pushing the drinking. So even after I got sober, I had people over the house, everybody drinks less. And I'm like, do your thing. I'm good. Like, I don't have any desire to do a drink. I want you guys to have a good fucking time just like we used to. And what I realized was I was the dude pushing the alcohol.
Yeah.
Yo, have another one. Have another one. Let's go. And I'm this big dude. I can drink everybody under the table.
Yeah.
God help him. Everybody's going to bed fucked up because of me. And that was a realization that I had. I had that power to actually do some good in the world.
Yeah.
And you feel the energy. That's like all that energy was sedated.
Right.
And now I get to use that energy in love and expansion and doing the things that I always wanted to do. And you hit the nail on the head. Put yourself around people that are going to lift you up. And you know my journey, and you know from the time we met how much I've invested time, money, and energy into myself. I'm currently part of a group where a third of the people have private jets. And I'm like, I'm the brokest, dumbest motherfucker in here.
That's where you want to be.
When I got there, I realized I wasn't either. I wasn't the dumbest or the brokest. But you had these guys that were doing amazing things in business.
Yeah.
It's a business group. But I saw that a lot of them were deficient in other areas of their life, whether physically or their bonds with their loved ones or their children, or maybe they didn't even have children. So again, it's easy for someone to be like, oh, look, that guy got all that money, but look, he got no love in his life. So I don't want to go chase the money because that's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
That's a story, bro.
That's a limited belief.
Because I also met a guy who's got a nice G5, a beautiful family, $100 million, and living life on his own terms. His kids know about finances. His kids go to the table, and once a year they do vision boards. What an inspiration, but I would have never known that. So I got Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Dr. Oz, Mark Hyman, who's working with RFK and Donald Trump in this new initiative to make America healthy again. And the most valuable guy was the guy that got up there to speak about family.
Yeah.
Because I'm missing that because I never had that. So here I am thinking I'm less than. But the truth is, what I bring to the table there, and everybody brings something to the table. You just have to know that you have value and believe that you have value. I'm bringing a perspective that these people don't have. I come from a place they've never been. Maybe they want to help because they know there's wrongs in that community. They know that writing a check could help some people.
Yeah.
But they don't have a conduit. They don't have somebody as a go-between them and their check or their abilities and helping these people. So let that be me. But I got to get uncomfortable to get to that place. And right now what you're seeing is somebody who seemingly has it all together, and I do in my existing life. But this life that I'm trying to build right now, bro, I have no fucking idea how I'm going to get there. I have a plan. I have a little outline, a sketch. But that's always going to be changing, and it's only going to be changing because I force myself to be around people that are at a much higher level or further along in their journeys than I am.
Yeah, man, that's real. And you know what? I've learned along my journey, and because I'm on a similar journey, and the most successful people in the world, and I've done this with any business that I've built, you don't worry about the how.
No.
You don't worry about the how.
You just do it.
You just do it because you know you're aligned with your purpose. You know what you got going on. You know you're meant to be there to do what you're doing. And speaking of that, when you crack through those limited beliefs, what are the core values that you hold on to that allow you to be able to not worry about the how, allow you to be able to move forward and live the life that you live and unlock that fullest potential?
It comes with confidence, and the confidence comes with time and experience. And all of those things have led me to be the guy that you see right now. The guy who just says what's on his mind, says what's on his heart, and has no hair on his tongue. Authenticity is the only way that you're going to tap into your greatest self. You're going to tap into that higher power, and that purpose is by being authentic. The problem with authenticity is, as young adults and young men and young women and teenagers, we have no fucking clue who we are. You got to go on that hero's journey. You got to take those chances. You got to fall on your face. You got to embarrass yourself in order to find out who you're not. Because it's easier to find out who you're not, but only if you're doing the thing. So if you try a job, how many jobs do we have as teenagers? Or if you were not of this generation and actually went out and started working when you were young, how many jobs did you have? Oh, this shit ain't for me. Yeah. So you went on to the next one. Oh, this ain't for me. You went on to the next. Oh, okay, I like this. And then you got tired of that. All right, maybe it's cool, but it's not for me. You have to live. You have to experience. You have to try And through trying and doing, that's how you learn what connects with you and what doesn't. So if you have a young kid and you want to put them in sports, you try out different sports and you see what they like. So that's, I guess, the easiest example I could use. You got a son or a daughter. Does she like gymnastics? She didn't like gymnastics. Let's take her to lacrosse. She didn't like lacrosse. Baseball. Oh, she liked baseball. And vice versa. Gymnastics, dance, whatever. But they're learning what they don't like in order to find what they do like. And you're learning who you're not in order to find who you are. But it takes time. Give yourself patience. Give yourself grace. You're going to fucking live 70, 80, maybe 90, 100 years. Give yourself grace. We're in an instant gratification time where the cell phone and technology, it just gives an expectation and a false reality that you can somehow find yourself, or you're a failure if you don't have what this one-off unicorn of a kid at 27. If you're an influencer at 24 and you're Lambos and worth all these millions of dollars, that's what they're looking to. Bro, that guy is the big exception to the rule, or that young lady's the big exception to the rule. Most of us are just trying to find ourselves. I didn't really strike gold till I was 43 and got sober, despite the financial success, despite the marriage and the kids in the suburbs. I didn't truly appreciate my life for what it is now until I got sober. And that took me to the age of, 43, 44? Give yourself grace, give yourself time. And it's easy to, go in a room and see a guy who's 27 and killing it and judge yourself. But that's the kiss of death too. Yeah. When you start comparing yourself to others, bro, we are all unique beings on our own journeys.
That's right.
And if you play the comparison game, you are fucked, because you are never going to live up to whatever expectation. You're not that person. That's their journey. What's your journey?
That imposter syndrome will fuck you all up, man, if you allow it to. You start comparing. You start trying to do what somebody else is doing. You mentioned authenticity. You got to stay true to who you are.
Right.
Right? Because when you go out of alignment with who you are, shit gets all fucked up.
Yeah.
And it becomes out of whack.
I got to give you your flowers, because you are part of my journey. You telling me that I got to tell my prison story encouraged me and gave me the bro, God's not going to open these doors till you tell that story. Yeah. I had the book laid out without the story of going to prison, because I didn't want to, embarrass my wife and, my daughter and the people in the suburbs. I work out with the gym. What are they going to think of me? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
They like me more now that they know that I've been through all this. But the imposter, the fear, the doubt, all the bullshit that we tell ourselves. So just do it, man. Just do the thing. Have the courage to start. My boy, again, I want to give him credit. I told him I was proud of him, because he went off and he did the mortgage thing on his own. He's side hustling. He still got his day job, but he took a chance. He started a website. He's shopping for clients. That takes courage. But it was only because that feeling wasn't leaving him. Right. He's got the wife. He's got the kids. He's got the house. Why am I not happy? You're not happy because you're not doing what you're capable of doing. And he was doubting himself. And I said, bro, he's like, I don't know if this was the right move. I said, it was absolutely the right move, because even if it was an absolute failure, it got you started. And the best thing you could do is get started. And you hosting this podcast, me hosting my podcast, that's getting started.
Absolutely.
How long you been thinking about this and you finally doing it?
A couple years, man.
There you go.
Couple years, but you got to pull the trigger.
And the shit is going to start rolling immediately.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Procrastination is the grave that opportunity is buried in, right? There's no time better than the present. If you wait for that perfect time, guess what? That shit is a fucking illusion. Yeah. It ain't never coming. There's no such thing as the perfect time. Start now on whatever it is you got to do. Start today. Don't wait for this moment, for that moment, because guess what? That moment is going to just pass you by, and you ain't never going to do what you're looking to do.
Never a perfect moment. I mean, let's use the cheesy cliche, right? When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When's the next best time? Today. It's the truth, man. What the fuck is the worst that could happen?
Right.
And if you look at your life from a lens of taking an inventory of all the bumps and bruises you've taken, and you've come out the other side alive and better off for it, then that maybe gives you the courage. You know what I mean? Because most people have been through some stuff in their life. I don't care how much comfort you came up in. At some point, you hit a wall. There was some adversity in your life, whether you were a silver spoon kid or you were a kid with nothing from the hood with no parents. The fact is, everybody goes through adversity, and everybody's on their own journey. And where we get caught up is comparing. Compare, oh, I had it harder than you. Who the fuck wants to win that battle? Oh, I had it worse than you. Who gives a shit? What are you doing with that pain that you went through? Are you helping others? Are you moving your life forward? Are you moving the needle? And how many times have we done that at parts of our life? Oh, but you don't understand, bro. You don't understand the things I'm going through. That's a trap, man.
Yeah, of course. You allow yourself to become that victim of those circumstances and conditions, right? And people think like this ride to success is just a straight line up. That's bullshit, man. Shit's gonna get fucked up in the middle, man.
It's all over the place.
But how you navigate through those bumps in the road is where the growth is. That's where the fucking magic is. Yeah. It's the in-between, right? I think it was Kobe that said some shit like, you got the beginning of where you start your journey, and then you got the destination. The magic is in the middle. It ain't in the beginning, it ain't at the end. It's in the middle, because that's where everything happens.
Bro, it's appreciating the journey. And it sounds cheesy. You know, to anybody who's listening who hasn't got started, this all sounds like bullshit. And they're going to, in their minds, unfortunately, make a story as to why it doesn't apply to them. This applies to every single human being on the planet.
Yeah.
We all have a desire to do more. If you have that desire and it's nagging at you, you have to do something about it. Otherwise, you're living in a self-imposed purgatory. You don't know it, but comfort is the kiss of death, man.
Yeah, man. It's such
and
a
not, listen,
disaster.
everybody's not cut out to, you don't have to do this grand thing. You don't have to change the world, start a $10 million business. How about just being happy with your fucking baby mom, or, maybe you didn't have the perfect upbringing, so you never got married because you never saw it work, but you got a baby mama and baby daddy for 7 years you've been living together, but you're afraid to get married. How many people we know like that? 10, 12 years in, never got married.
Absolutely.
There's something there, bro.
Yeah.
But you think that fear, that doubt is not seeping into every aspect of your life, and if you have a child together, that's not affecting theirs.
Yeah.
It is, man, but we just don't see it that way because we craft this story that makes sense of the, the stuff that holds
level,
us
man.
right
Just,
where we're comfortable.
It'll fucking destroy you.
Yeah, so you can find greatness in a simple life. It doesn't have to be anything grand. Am I fulfilled? When I wake up in the morning, am I happy with what I'm doing? You could be a doorman, a bus driver, Uber driver.
That's right.
I can find one that's miserable. I can find one that's happy. Give me time. It's the choice that people make and the tools they have at their disposal to view the world through that lens.
I could take you to some of the most poorest countries in the world, man, and they fucking so happy in some of those places. They got fulfillment. They just, it's not about the materialistic thing, man.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, if somebody out there is looking to reforge their life, what advice would you give them?
No pressure. No pressure. So belief, I always say, is the beginning of everything. But how do you believe in something that, you haven't done, seen, heard of being done? The truth of it is you have to have motion. You have to have emotion behind it. You want to reforge your life? Unfortunately, there has to be some level of pain threshold that you have gone past being comfortable in. So when the pain is great enough, the pain of loss, the pain of fear, or even the physical pain of whatever you may be going through is great enough, you then have an opportunity to shift. The pain of me, alcohol, not being a present dad and husband, and my wife's comment, that was the shift. The pain was too great for me to go on living that same life. I was torturing myself, and in turn, I was physically destroying myself through alcohol and not working out and not eating healthy. And this is a whole new version of me on the other side. So knowing what you want is probably the most important thing. So belief and knowing what you want.
Right.
Those are tied in,
Yeah.
right? I'm no scientist. Those are pretty tightly wound together. Know what you want, and the only way that you can start to foster the belief toward that journey is to start doing the things to get toward the thing that you want. So whatever the thing that you want is, you want a girlfriend, you haven't had one, maybe you're overweight. That's a factor. You're going to be honest with yourself. All right, how do I lose weight? That's been a big thing in my life. I've been 350 pounds, not once, but twice in my life. I mask my pain with alcohol, with food, with vice, with drugs over the years, because I always had this vision of myself that was far greater than anything that anybody around me had ever accomplished.
Yeah.
And yet here I am on that mission right now doing the thing, and it took me a whole lot of time, it took me a whole lot of money, it took me a whole lot of mistakes. So know where you want to go, start to do something, and that is the only way you will start to build the belief toward reforging your life. So allow yourself the permission to dream, because it's not real anyway.
Yeah.
It's not real anyway. So I use my example of being in a prison cell. All those things seem so far out of reach.
Right.
What the fuck? Who am I to say these things? Who am I to put these numbers on paper that I'm going to earn that much money? You're in a prison cell, bro. You're living on 55 commissary, $55 every 2 weeks. And I wrote them, and they came true.
Yeah.
Because I gave myself the permission to dream and draw the picture of where I wanted to be. Had no idea how I was going to get there, but I gave myself the permission. And everybody out there that has something that they want to accomplish, start to dream, start to write it in detail. You want a house? How many square feet is that house? How many bedrooms? What's the view? What does it look like when you turn left in the bathroom? Is there a sink? Is there a toilet? Dream and get deep. Give yourself some space from the noise, the distraction, and start to actually draw a picture in your mind of what this life looks like. Then take it to another level. Start to write it down. If you got a house that you're dreaming of, draw the shit. Yeah. Look it up on Zillow. Find the house, what it looks like. Print it out. That's the power of a vision board. Right. So vision, knowing where you want to go, taking some action, start to foster that belief. And then you said it before when we talked about it, get around the people that are going to level you up. Get away from your current friend circle. It's not to 86 them and say that they're less than. It's just saying that that doesn't serve this new vision of what you want for your life. So I just had the conversation with some of my brothers yesterday, group that I'm part of how lonely success is.
Yeah.
And you would never know that coming from me because I sound confident, I'm well-spoken, and I have amazing wife and kids and a nice car and house. Bro, this shit is lonely. Yeah. It is a lonely journey at times. You're my boy. And I don't even think to pick up the phone and just call you sometimes. And I know you're picking up.
Yeah,
I know you're going to take my call, and I know you're going to be able to walk me through whatever that feeling is. But I've always done it on my own, so I'm still selling myself that story. I got this. I'll figure it out. But people are your greatest resource, so use them. Get around them.
Of course.
Get around the people that want to see you win and lift you up. And that's not a knock on your family and your friends. It's just a raw truth that they are not going to believe in the thing you want to do. They're only going to believe in you after you've already accomplished the shit. You'll be like, oh, I always knew you could do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you didn't, motherfucker.
There's a lot to unpack there. I want the audience to pick up those jewels, right? So don't be afraid to ask for help, number one. Creating your vision and how powerful your vision is. Manifestation is real, guys. It's there. Your life is how you want to create it. You create your destiny. You and your creator, you got to work together in harmony. Teamwork makes the dream work. You can't just pray and be like, oh, I want this. And all of a sudden, guess what? You wake up in the morning, everything's there. He's going to be like, you lazy motherfucker. You got to put some work in, man. How you not going to put work in? You think I'm going to just give it to you? No, I want to see you putting work in. Show me that you believe it. Write it down. Put it on paper. Let's do this together. Right. That's what the creator wants to see. So manifestation is so powerful, and believe it in yourself. I just want everybody to really pick up on that, man. Bro, let everybody know what you're doing now, after the jail, after the rehab, what you got going on, and where they can find you, man.
So the day job, fuck it, the real estate stuff that, again, it's been a climb. So, I mean, I got a medical company that I, do supplies for, and I've jumped into the real estate game because I put myself around people that are very well to do in real estate. So by forging those relationships, I've opened doors to getting into that game. And most recently and most meaningfully, I decided to embark on the journey that I wrote in that black and white composition notebook, which is to be of service to my community and the people that look like, sound like, and have experienced the same bullshit that life has given, unfortunately, too many black and brown people from inner cities and from all over and all walks of life, and poor people in general. But I can only speak to what I've experienced, and that's where my heart is at. So I formed Real Mentors, REAL being an acronym for Real, R-E-A-L, Real being an acronym for Real Examples Altering Lives. And we started the podcast recently out of a desire to give a platform to and shine a light on people in the community that are doing God's work, and they've got boots on the ground. They've got nonprofits or organizations that are rallying people, feeding people, clothing people, housing people, changing lives, making impact. Yeah. Why start from scratch? There's so many organizations doing the work that can be lifted up. So now I'm the guy. This is the podcast that they can come on that'll help them level up their mission. So I just feel called to go back, plant seeds, drop gems, tell them it's possible. You can do it. I did it. And I think the most powerful thing, and I thank you for this, was sharing the fact that I've been to prison. Yeah. Because, oh, shit, well, okay, he's not just a tall, rich, white-looking guy from the Long Island suburbs. It's like, oh, this motherfucker's from the hood and he been through the shit. Yeah. Okay, I'm listening now. And that served me immensely in the ability to make impact by catching attention. And the same way that we hope that somebody's going to catch just one of these gems that can hopefully improve their life, I get to do that on an almost weekly basis, talking to these high school age kids, man. And it's such a great feeling. And then pouring into my family, too, has been such a great feeling. But, this is all about being of service to others, because I'm good. Like, I'm always growing, but I got enough confidence where I can take whatever's coming at me. And I figure I got reserves to make the world a better place. It sounds fucking cheesy, but I think a lot of people have the ability to, just not the courage to. They don't have the clarity to know that their existence has the ability to change someone else's. And that goes for everybody, man. You can go to the Starbucks counter and just be polite and kind. Yeah. Somebody behind that counter, or vice versa, is having a terrible day, and that interaction shifts their day. And by shifting that energy, maybe something else comes into their life. It sounds whimsical, but the truth is, magic is real.
Yeah, sure is.
You just have to believe it is,
That's
my brother.
Gotta believe, man. And tell everybody where they can find you, bro.
Absolutely. Instagram's our biggest platform. It's the Sean Martin, TheSeanMartin. We're also at Real Mentors Podcast on Instagram. TikTok to be determined this weekend. We'll see. But you can catch us there as well. Facebook, YouTube, all the platforms. And yeah, man, we're just looking to continue rolling forward.
Yeah, man. Keep pushing, man. Keep giving it back. That's what it's all about, bro. And got God in your corner. Anything's possible.
Absolutely, brother.
There's two questions that I ask all my guests. Number one is, what does the word reforge mean to you?
Reforge. So let's say you put up some idea, some plan, and it goes to shit, or it doesn't work out the way that you intended it to, or it works out exactly how you wanted it, or it didn't know it was going to, but exactly how it's supposed to be. And now you've got to re-envision that life. So reforge is taking your life back. It's taking back control of the things you can control, letting go of the things that you can't. Yes. It's like the serenity prayer almost, brother. And I caught myself as I was saying it, because that's what it is. It's the letting go of the things you can't control, putting in the work, creating the vision, and trusting in God in the process to carry you through.
That's right. So that's a good one. I mean, it's so true, man, because letting go of the things you can't control is so important, and that's things that a lot of people have struggled with. That they want to hold on and
we see it in politics. We see it in the world. You mentioned some political. I won't even mention it. Not offend anybody, but you mention anything in the news right now, and you could get somebody going off on a tangent. Meanwhile, the guy is the counter guy at Walmart. I'm like, my man, this might be a little above your pay grade to be talking about, world famine or bombs. I mean, again, I'm not being insulting. I'm just being like, dude. Obviously, there's some things in your life that we can improve upon. Why the fuck am I worried about something I got no control over?
They don't give a fuck about you. Why you give a fuck about the politics?
I say it all the time. I'm like, I don't care if you left or you right or you're down the middle. These people don't know who you are.
They don't give a fuck.
And you can think that they have some, some control or some influence on your life, but nothing greater than you have on your own.
Right.
So even if you're a working man and your check that's coming home is going to change incrementally, $50 may be a big difference in a weekly salary. So I get it, bro. I come from very little. But the point is, that energy that I'm fucking sitting there stressing about who the president's going to be, I could go put the time into myself at the gym or a side hustle. Or if I'm a contractor, I could go start a side hustle. What the fuck am I going to concentrate? All that energy, I'm going to concentrate on something that's so above what I'm capable of having any influence over. We're down here, bro. Focus down here on yourself and, change yourself and you change the world. I think people don't understand that if they can change this, they can change the world way more easily than actually changing the world and the policies that shape the things that are out of our control.
100%. 100%. And it's sad that there's such a small percentage that really understand that, But that's why we do what we do, to help people, more people understand it.
It is designed that way, and I don't think that any organized government or business agency wants it any different.
No,
if you're a corporation, there's a hierarchy and there's a reason, and the people that are put into those positions fit into those positions. And listen, this is human nature. This is human nature, so we have to accept it. But again, just all that energy during COVID, I used to tell my boys, I'm like, yo, my man, and to their credit, a lot of the conspiracy theories turned out to not be conspiracies. But what changed in your life other than you poured fucking 6 hours a day into the internet instead of pouring 6 hours a day into your family or the gym or your business plan? Wasted all that energy, wasted all that focus on something that, yes, you were right. Okay, now what?
So much more to be productive on, man. So much. They want people to stay sheep. They don't want people to live out their purpose. No. And speaking of purpose, that's the next question. What does purpose mean to you?
Purpose is something greater than yourself. Or for me, it is. Purpose is something that wakes you up in the morning. Purpose is something that when you're in it, it doesn't feel like work. Time flies by, just like this conversation. Or when I'm spending time with my little man with no distractions, no TV, rolling on the floor. We could do that for as long as, as we can, and time flies by. Because you're in a space that is fulfilling, and you're in a space where the distractions don't matter. And that usually comes in the form of pouring into someone else in whatever shape or form. I'm choosing to do it with, impoverished youth and also adults, not for nothing. My friends come to me for advice. So I know I'm in my purpose when I have now become somebody that people reach out to for advice or for a, hey, I would like your opinion on this. That's how I know I'm living in purpose. And it took me getting over all my bullshit. And it also took me alleviating a lot of financial concerns, quite honestly. So I can understand why people would find it hard to find purpose when you're having trouble paying the bills. But I just implore you to let it in. Let the potential for something greater than yourself seep in, creep in. Just entertain it, and I guarantee you that you'll feel better. I mean, when you're at a concert or when you're at church, you're in the moment. You're not worried about all the worldly things that are stressful because there's purpose to that. Now, maybe you're not in your purpose, but that band, that guy who's put his life, or that lady or that woman or that group who's put their life's work and all that rehearsal into entertaining or creating this art, that's their purpose. Now you're feeling the energy of their purpose. Jesus Christ, if you're a Christian and you're in church, you can't help but be moved when the whole congregation is up or the music's playing or something hits. That's purpose. And you'll feel it. You'll feel it. But you got to try different things. And when you feel it, you'll know.
It's amazing how purpose is something greater than yourself because you're connected with something greater than yourself that brings you to unlock your fullest potential, man. Man, this has been dope, bro. I knew it was gonna be. The energy's always there when we connect, bro. And thanks again for coming through, man.
Thank you, my pleasure. We'll definitely do it again, and best of luck, man. I'm so glad to see you doing this, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt, bro. Everyone, stay productive, stay profitable, and stay blessed.
You've been listening to Reforge Your Life with your host, Joe Rivera. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Joe Rivera and how he can help you or your organization reforge your life and regain your place at the top, head on over to withjoerivera.com and follow Joe on all social platforms. The Reforge Your Life podcast was produced by Thrive Loud Productions. Thanks for listening.